Hello, my name is Stephen Langley, and I am in the DES class. And in this class, I have been tasked with designing and implementing a new mechanic into this tile-based game project. So now the mechanic that I have decided to do was a tile transform button that is linked to a tile transform. The tile transform is actually the highlighted wall you see above you, in front of you, and the tile transform button is a button that is linked to it to make the wall animate up and down. I was actually got this inspiration from Chip's challenge, and if you look at it, you can see them. There's a block that's highlighted in green. They step on a button and it transports to another place. That's not like this. You step on the tile, it animates down. You move off of it, it animates back up. So while I'm talking about it, I will go ahead and demonstrate my mechanic for you. So here we go. And if you notice, I added sound to it. And there's that. I want to go ahead and show you what happens if you step on this button and come off. Yeah. Alright, let's keep moving. And if you look at the bottom left, you'll notice that there's a stamina bar. Now, since a lot of people may think that this mechanic is actually kind of simple, I made it a little bit more difficult for the player. I wanted it to be really something that was more entertaining and more challenging. So your stamina bar will really reflect that. So if you are not careful, you will deplete it and you will have to reset. And this last one is actually just right for me. And there we go. Alright, so since I showed you that, I want to show you something else. With that in mind, let's go ahead and explore some of the parts. So, I made this. I don't need the interactable box. Let's go in here. Now what I did was I went in here and I found the blueprints of some of the tiles. Now I found the slide tile that we made before as a mechanic, but what I made was the tile transform and the tile transform button. So starting off, what I did was I started out here in the editor in the viewport. Now I took a regular tile and I made it a child. And I took the plane, I left the base plane there, and I basically just created this plane right here and the circle that goes onto it. Once I made that, I made the button brighten right here, which was actually already done on the slide material, but I went ahead and I did this here to kind of mimic that. I also did the button dim, which was the original color. It's not hard to figure out. Like I said, we went through this already with the instructor, so I kind of didn't comment it out. This is really what I was wanting to get into. So after I made that, I wanted to make sure that since this was the child, I went ahead and on the event begin play, it calls the parent and then it goes with the original material. Now the original material, as you look into it, is this little green stuff right here. That green is actually just a regular green. I created it and I wanted it to kind of blink on and off, so I made a lighter green that actually kind of mimics this highlighted wall, and it just blinks whenever the character steps onto it. Now you can see that actually come into play right here. This is the button light activation. As soon as the player enters this and it senses it, it plays the parent function. After it notices where it's at, the button will brighten. It will play this sound at the location, which you will hear. It's the beep, beep kind of stuff. And then once it's done with that, it makes sure that it calls the correct array and triggers it. And when it triggers it, it will trigger this code right here, the event on trigger. Before I go on to that, I want to finish this about the button light deactivation. When the person exits the tile, they will call the parent. There will be a delay of a 0.3. The button will dim down to its original color, play the sound again, which is the same sound that was up here, and of course it will make the the transform tile rise back up. Now, with that going, I went ahead and with the blink on this, I ended up adding this. So we'll go ahead and start with the event begin play before we get into the event on trigger. So now the event begin play at the start of the game, it runs the parent function, and then it does this. It makes it so that way the character cannot pass through this wall whatsoever. So as a character, you walk up to the wall, you will not be able to enter no matter what, unless you trigger it. So this is always set to do not enter. After that, I ended up creating a timer for the blinks, and of course I promoted the return value to a variable, so it makes it easier. But I went ahead and I linked a custom event by the event, or a custom event. I linked it to the timer, and what it's supposed to do is I linked that to a flip-flop, so that way it keeps playing these off and on with a time of 1 second intervals between. So every second this will blink off, every second this will blink on. So as I was talking about before, the event on trigger. Now this is a function that was created out of a blueprint interactable, or an interactable blueprint. I just created a function in there. It's just a default function that I can call in the editor, and that's all I needed. So I went back in here and I went to tile transform. I inherited this on the side right here. I went to class settings and I inherited my iTrigger. Now once I inherited my iTrigger, I was able to actually make an event out of it. So that way, like I said, whenever this tile transform button calls the on trigger event, it will start this piece of code right here. This, of course, is always playing because as soon as you start the game, this automatically starts. This only happens whenever the event trigger is called like it is being called in the transform button. So right here, as you can tell, you see all this code before you get to the play sound, which I know you're probably looking at this like, what is this? This right here is my code to let you show. Here, this is more of a little bit of an easier explanation. When you click on this tile, you will see down here that there's your bright material. The original material is already fine. It's already set because I set it in the function. Now right here, where's it at? Right here, the transform tiles. This right here is this. I took the transform tiles and I made them into an array. Now because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, I needed an array. I thought it would be easier, so I did it. Now, once that array is established, it can call the on-trigger event, like I said before. So, whenever the on-trigger event hits, the on-trigger that is called, it adds 1 to it. Now, once it sets that, it will make sure that the on-trigger called is either greater than or equal to the on-trigger that it needs to be called, which means it's checking the number of whether or not what this array element is. It's checking this highlighted wall, the tile transforms position in the array. So that way it can call the correct one. So once it realizes that it's greater than or equal to, which usually if it's equal to, it will face that it's true. It will play the sound at the location. And then it starts the wall animation. This wall animation is what makes the wall go up and down. When it goes down, it will go to this vector right here, which is the right coordinate. It stays at 0, 0, and then it just basically moves it down in the editor. If you step back here, what I did was I added a scene component that is linked to the wall material and the highlight material, and I just moved it down past the dill, and it said it was -137 position. You plug it in and you make the other position 0, so that way it resets back. That's all you kind of have to do. And then you go over here and you set the relative location to make sure that it's all the way set. And then, of course, you make it to can enter, so that way, after the mall moves down, the player can walk in and be able to walk back out. Now, I'd use this flip-flop right here, so that way, whenever you leave this button, like it says on the the on exit of that button tile, it triggers it again. Well, that trigger is to show this other animation of the wall going back up, which means it will play going to the 0, 0. So when it plays regular, it goes to the 0, 0 to the negative 137 point whatever. Then from there, if it activates again, it goes from negative 137 to 0. Then it sets the relative location, and then they can enter. So, and that's pretty much about it. I hope that you guys really, really like it. I had so much fun doing it. I really enjoyed it. I love how I was able to add in all these little blinking tiles and everything like that, and I tried to make it as complicated as possible. Yes, some of the code, most of this code that I've used, I've actually used this code before. I was able to use some buttons and stuff like that whenever in some of the earlier classes, and I kind of was able to put this together. And what I really like is being able to do this this little tile transform right here with the highlighted blinking on and off. I really like that timer set by event. It took a little bit to figure it out, but I was able to do it, and it really made me happy, and it kind of just brought the project all together. So I really hope you guys like it. I'll show you this. Like I said, again, this highlighted blink on and off is actually the same as that slide, as the slide tile that we created. So I'll go in here and I'll show you that. This is the blink off and the blink on. As you can tell, that it's kind of the same thing as what I've put up here. Only it's the highlight that's being triggered, and it's going to be the highlight is being brightened and the highlight is being dimmed. So, yeah, I hope you guys like it. Thank you very much.